I was 7 years old when I realized not all clowns are funny. It was supposed to be a normal birthday party. Balloons, cake, a handful of neighborhood kids, and a clown my parents hired to entertain us. His name, according to the booking form, was Mr. Jingles. I still remember the flyer. It had a cartoonishly cheerful clown juggling cupcakes with a huge red nose and bright yellow suspenders. Totally innocent. My mom was excited, said he was from some local party entertainment company. She booked him through a friend of a friend. The party started like any other. We were playing tag in the backyard while my dad grilled hot dogs. I didn't notice at first that the clown was late, but eventually my mom started checking her phone and muttering to herself. About 40 minutes in, he showed up. No fanfare, no cheerful entrance, just walked around the side of the house and into the yard. Everyone went quiet when they saw him. I don't know how to explain it, but even as a kid I knew something was off. His costume looked wrinkled, stained in places. The makeup was uneven, like he'd put it on in the car or had been wearing it for too long. The red around his lips wasn't a neat smile, it looked smeared, more like a frown if you looked at it long enough. Just kind of stood there, holding a bunch of deflated balloons and blinking at us like he was trying to remember what to do. My mom introduced him, trying to keep the mood light, but even she looked uncomfortable. When he did finally speak, his voice didn't match the outfit. It was deep, rough, and sounded tired. He started twisting balloons slowly, clumsily really, and handed one to a little girl who was already backing away. The other kids weren't impressed. Some wandered off, but I stuck around. Something about him felt like watching a car wreck. You didn't want to look, but you couldn't look away. Then, about 20 minutes into his act, he did something that still unsettles me to this day. He asked a kid to help him with a secret magic trick and led him behind the shed. My dad noticed and followed them. I heard my dad say, "Why are you alone with him back here?" The clown didn't answer. He just stared at my dad and then slowly walked away, disappearing around the back of the house. We didn't see him again after that. My parents tried to laugh it off. We opened presents, had cake, and the kids eventually forgot about him. But later that night, I overheard my parents on the phone. My mom was calling the company that supposedly sent Mr. Jingles. The woman who answered said, "That can't be right. We canceled all bookings today. Our clown called in sick this morning. We didn't send anyone out." My mom went pale. My dad called the police, but there wasn't much to go on. No one knew who he really was. No license plate, no name. They never found him. It became one of those stories we stopped talking about after a while. But even now, as an adult, clowns make me uneasy. It was 2016, right in the middle of that weird clown craze where people were dressing up to scare others for internet likes. I was working part-time at a small retail store just off the freeway in my town. We didn't close until 10 p.m., so by the time I finished cleaning up and clocked out, it was past 10:30. The store had this back lot where employees parked. It was always dark, even with those dim security lights. That night, I remember checking my phone and yawning as I stepped out the back door. About 20 feet from my car, there was someone standing perfectly still in a clown suit. Not a Halloween costume, I mean full-on circus style. Ruffled collar, striped pants, big red shoes. He had a giant red balloon in one hand and was just standing there, watching me. At first I thought maybe it was a prank. I even laughed a little nervously. thinking maybe it was one of the younger guys from the stockroom. But the longer I stared, the more I realized this wasn't funny. He just stared, like he was waiting for something. I called out, but he did not react. I took a step forward, and that's when he raised the balloon slowly and let it go. It drifted upward in complete silence. I suddenly felt like I was in a nightmare. I bolted for my car, keys shaking in my hand. I got in, locked the doors, and looked back. The clown was gone, completely vanished. There was nowhere for him to run, just a chain link fence and a row of dumpsters. I was on a solo road trip in 2012, making my way from Arizona to Colorado. I took the scenic route and planned to stop at small towns along the way. One night, I ended up in this tiny desert town where the only motel open was an old rundown place off a cracked 2-lane highway. Inside, the front desk clerk barely looked up as he slid me a key for room 107. My room was about what you'd expect for $38. One bed, buzzing TV, and stained wallpaper. I was too tired to care. Around 11 p.m. I started dozing off, but then I heard something. Laughter. I muted the TV, it kept going. Faint, but close, like it was coming from the next room. I figured a family was staying next door, maybe some kids still hyped up from a road trip. I turned up the AC to drown it out and eventually fell asleep. At around 2 o'clock, I woke up again, this time to whispering. I couldn't make out the words, just soft, breathy voices. Then, something scraped across my door. I crept to the peephole and looked. At first, I saw nothing. Then someone walked by, dressed as a clown. His face was partially in shadow, but I saw the smile, painted too wide, red streaks going almost to his ears. He didn't knock, didn't look at me, just stopped, breathed heavily for a few seconds, then scratched the door with one finger. I backed away and called the front desk. No answer. I crouched on the floor, heart racing, and stayed there for hours until the sun came up. In the morning, I went to the desk and asked if anyone had checked in late last night wearing a clown costume. The old man at the counter blinked slowly and said, "You were in 117?" I nodded. He said, "We usually don't put people in that room, not since what happened years ago." When I asked what he meant, he told me about a clown who used to travel through town doing shows at local fairs. One night, he booked room 108 and never checked out. They found him days later, sitting in the corner, dead from an overdose. The walls were covered in lipstick writing, one word repeated over and over: smile.